and poverty in their communities, but not like a Zimbabwe situation. But I think Ramaphosa is right that if you don't do something about land in South Africa over the next 10 years, if we don't move faster, then we will have that potential will grow, yeah? And so they are trying to diminish that and do it in a sensible way. So I think it needs to be balanced, but it's very hard to maintain that balance when you've got this, this one party shouting for free land for everybody on the one side and others saying, this is completely ludicrous, and there's no real middle ground, and it becomes very sensitive and it's very hard to maintain. And meanwhile, your agriculture, which is probably the biggest area of job creation in the country, people don't invest in their farms because they're worried about what's going to happen, and then suddenly you see that people aren't selling properties because they're not sure whether, and it creates a knock-on effect for sure. And so Ramaphosa's sort of agenda is being sidelined, or his ability to actually restore confidence in the economic sense is being undermined by that type of issue. And so there's not a great deal of way in which I could see the ANC in 2019 losing out to a coalition, an opposition coalition. And anyway, if they did that opposition coalition, which would be between the Democratic Alliance Party on the right and the EFF, which is on the popular side,
they seem remarkably unmatched. But I don't.
It would make Italian politics look, like
orderly.
Simple, yeah. So in a way, that's probably maybe for investors a better thing, that the ANC gets knocked a bit, gets its house in order. Ramaphosa comes out with a stronger mandate, builds his platform, and takes things forward. But until then, we're going to have this quite uneven situation politically, where we're in a slight no man's ground of politics.
Got it. Okay.
So that's the macro
helpful.
sort of aspect.
Yeah.
Within this, there's been a huge amount of issues going on around mining policy. So in South Africa, there's two main things on mining policies. One which is the governing legislation, which was something called the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act. And for the last 5 years, they've been trying to amend that act, which
What's the name of that act? Sorry.
It's called the MPRTA, so Minerals and Petroleum Resources Development Act. So it's the main sort of overall act that governs the sector.
Got it.
And they've been trying to review that, and part of it was trying to address issues for South Africa's offshore oil exploration, and it became very messy. And they were doing all sorts of things within that act around what they call here beneficiation, which is basically just value-added processing, where they wanted to try and force companies, rather than sending goods off to China to go and be processed and smelted, etc. That's, we should be doing that here and creating jobs. And so there's pieces within that amendment of that act that were going to make it harder and require companies to hand off a certain percentage or certain amount of their resources to local companies. And then people said, actually, well, that's a problem because that's going to be against your international trade obligations and GATT and everything else. And ultimately what's happened since Ramaphosa's come in is that they've withdrawn, or they've said they will withdraw that bill. So immediately that's something which the mining companies are significantly worried about. And by doing so, they've built up a sense of confidence now under a new mining minister, and that's good. And then there was also this thing called the Mining Charter, which is basically the code that governs the black empowerment in South Africa. So black empowerment used to probably be seen mostly as like black ownership. How much do you have as an equity stake? But actually, it's become, and it is much bigger than that. It's around skills transfer. It's about how many black managers you have, your employment equity programs, your procurement. So who are your suppliers? Are you using local suppliers, and how do you and you get points for doing that? And so in the mining
so it's
sector...
It's not just about 26% economic ownership or whatever. Yeah.
No, not anymore. In the mining sector, obviously, as you say, they had this code which came in and was developed actually before all other sectors had